Alrighty, so next up we have a partner from our partner company that is super well known and super important in the no-code space. The company is called Makerpad, and we have Tom Osman, who is the leading the education at Makerpad. And if you're ever around no-code Twitter, then I'm sure you saw Tom more than once. He's very active, he's sharing a lot of knowledge, and he's basically representing what Makerpad no-code is all about. Sharing knowledge, empowering people, and making sure we find a way to give more people the opportunity to try their own ideas, find their inner calling, and get something great together. So Tom is obviously passionate about creating disruptive digital products. He has a long track record of being creative since the early age. I think, Tom, you've created your first startup when you were just 19. You right?
That's correct. It didn't go very well, but technically.
Yeah. And today, Tom will be talking to us about the no-code landscape, where we are right now, where is it going, and I'm hoping that you're going to be sharing more information about how Makerpad's into all of that and how can this help people who are just stepping into this domain of no-code, and for people who are here long enough to get to the next level. And the stage is yours, Tom. Thank you very much for being us.
So hi, everybody. So some acts to follow, being Tara, who's an absolute genius. So full credit to Tara for everything she's done for the no-code space and community in general. She's incredible. So definitely check out everything that she puts out there. Big props to her. So what I'm going to talk about today is basically an overview of everything we see at Makerpad. There's quite a lot to go through as it touches on several different areas. So hopefully this is going to inspire you to actually fully dive in and commit to the no-code/low-code industry and start learning, start building, and start implementing it in your businesses. So today we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to first talk about what is no-code quickly, the landscape, the opportunities, and then what is coming next. Quick intro on me. You don't really want to hear about me too much, but I'm Tom Osman, dad, ultra runner, tech nerd, builder of things in education at Makerpad. Like I said, you can find me mostly on Twitter during the day. So what is no code? No code is a set of tools that enable the creation of software without writing code. Also, you could expand that to the general community as well. But if you ask the same question on Twitter, you get 100 slightly different answers. And worth noting, if a former footballer who left school at 16 can build software, then so can you. So don't feel like you can't do it. First of all, worth noting also that no code is not a magic bullet. Sometimes just because you can build it without code, it doesn't mean you should. We had a prime example of this from the UK recently, that we discovered that our track and trace system was actually built on Excel. And they remembered that they suddenly ran out of columns, and we had a huge increase in cases because they forgot to update the data. That's probably a good opportunity to use code rather than not. But we don't hear about any of that, so let's talk about the no-code landscape in general. For starters, a quick 1-minute touch on how we got here. It's not a new thing. There's going to be other talks that mention this previously, but no-code tools have actually been around for a long time. It began back with things like Microsoft Front Page or Dreamweaver, following a similar sort of trend as we're seeing, where you can kind of build components in like a drag and drop type way and then do a bit of customization. Obviously, they've come a long way since then, but they've been around for a while. And I'll save you the history lesson because I know a lot of you have probably got Zoom fatigue already. I mean, it is quite late in the week, so I'll save you the big history side of that. But really for me, there were two tools that kind of kicked off this whole movement, and that was WordPress and Shopify. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Firstly, WordPress is like a real OG tool. WordPress allowed people to build and launch sites and blogs really easily. So this was one of the first like drag and drop tools which people really adopted. And now 35% of the internet is powered by WordPress, which is almost 500 million websites. It's a lot. WordPress is probably still an underrated no-code tool with this new influx of tools, but give it credit, kind of kicked off a lot of things. Also, here's a photo of WordPress creator Matt Mullenweg looking happy, and why shouldn't he? Next, Shopify. Shopify made it simple for people to create an online shop. Shopify is now the third largest online retailer in the US after Amazon and eBay. And like Matt Mullenweg, here is a photo of Shopify CEO Tobias, also looking happy. There are others, but we do not have much time today. So you're probably telling me that, yeah, WordPress and Shopify were good, but what about this tool? What about this tool? Could be argued, but those are two of the modern era tools that really kind of kicked it up a notch. If you have a quick Google and you want to dive into anything to do with like the history of no code, then there's loads of great articles that kind of lay things out and kind of take you through the whole process of how we arrived here today with this huge abundance of tools. We talk about like the brief history of low code platforms, no code platforms, links to all of them. There's videos. Just go and do a bit of Googling, do a bit of reading, and yeah, you can really dive down the rabbit hole. So now that we're a bit warmed up, we'll dive into what we're seeing at Makerpad. We think we're kind of reaching a bit of a tipping point in the whole space. So we're seeing everything trending up. We're seeing an influx of new platforms. We're seeing a big buzz around the community, although it's not new. It kind of feels that more and more people are aware of it. It's not just a tiny little community anymore. It's reaching every part of the globe. There's more and more communities popping up and more platforms being built without code. One of the tipping points is now individuals can build products or businesses without learning to code or finding a technical co-founder. So until recently, you could build some things. So you could probably build websites or a shop. But say if you wanted to venture into building applications, being like web apps, marketplaces, mobile apps, there was still that need to try and find like a technical co-founder. And there was that excuse of saying, okay, maybe I can't work on my problem. If only I had a technical co-founder and £20,000 in the bank, I could build an app. Those excuses are like kind of out of the window now, because you can build a mobile app from a Google Sheet, and diving into Bubble, you can build a full-scale web application with user authentication out of the box. So that excuse is gone as well. So that's one of the tipping points. Another one, businesses can automate work, build middleware, and launch products without leaning on engineering resources. So this is a big one for businesses, because rather than having an okay suite of tools, they'd always kind of default back to engineering resources to get it done properly. But now tools have advanced and there's robust solutions. I know that Zapier is the go-to choice for small to medium-sized businesses and saving hundreds of man hours. And we'd class this middleware. So this is the things that tie applications together. And there's still a big opportunity there, which we'll dive into in a bit. And at the enterprise level, enterprise can now build robots to save thousands of hours of labor and increase efficiency by actually automating processes that would traditionally have humans involved. And when there's humans involved, there would be human error. And when human error occurs, there's loss of labor hours, there's big mistakes being made, which can have huge knock-on financial effects. But implementing some of the tools that we're going to mention in a minute could remove all that, and enterprise can be more effective by using no-code or low-code platforms. There's also tools for every single use case. So like I mentioned a minute ago, rather than just websites, let's say you wanted to just build a chatbot, there's loads of tools for that. Let's say if you were just wanting to build middleware and automation platforms, there's enterprise-grade automation platforms all the way up to something like Tray or Brighter. There are tools for every single use case now within the ecosystem. So, and there's also probably multiple tools for every single use case in the system. So you don't just have to pick WordPress for doing a drag and drop site. There's probably 10 you can pick from. If you want to build a job board without code, there's probably 5 you can pick from. Or building something from scratch, there's also going to be several you can pick from, which is good for competition. Everyone has to up their game. Everyone's competing for customers, and that is good for the ecosystem in general. So you've probably seen a chart like this. There's a few on the interwebs. All of them are instantly out of date at the moment because there's new platforms being released every day. So you could create one day and the next day it'd be out of date. So these are particularly hard to keep recent, but this is a pretty good one. Although I'd argue Makerpad isn't for templates, but that's a conversation for the other day. There are tools in here that you've probably heard of. And like you can see, they're kind of fitting into these unique use cases where you've got the front end with e-commerce, overall site builders, landing pages, portfolios, mobile apps. And as you can see, there's multiple tools for each use case, which is great. And expect this to grow by 10x over the next 12 months. And at Makerpad, we work with some of the best of them. You can cast your eyes over these tools. Some of them you may not have realized existed before, but we're seeing some really high caliber tools in Makerpad that we use every day. So that's a bit of waffle for me. And I know shush your mouth and get to the bit where we can find out about how we can make money from the space. It's all good doing theory, but as Tara said, revenue is king. So how can we make money? What are the opportunities? Which I guess we class as the good bit. Good news is businesses are adopting no-code tools at an ever-increasing rate. So if you wound the clock back to say when Zapier came out originally, it'd be a case of, well, I just use a developer for that. Everyone would turn their nose up at no-code solutions because you needed to be a technical person to do anything in IT. This has kind of changed. And with a proven track record of even no-code tools like HubSpot, for instance, or a landing page builder that a marketing team uses that they don't have to rely on a developer, that bit of trust gained all the time compounds. And now we're at a point where, yeah, like, of course, we're going to use a no-code tool. Of course, we're not going to lean on developer resources until we need to, which is awesome. And that presents a lot of opportunities. Insight number 2 from us, no-code operators are now being recruited by startups and small businesses alike. So no-code ops is now an official job title. If you are good at using things like Airtable, Zapier, like Integromat, and actually know how to stitch systems together, you're actually going to be saving a lot of man hours for endless amounts of companies. So if you went to, let's say, builtwith.com and figured out which tools people use and you knew how to stitch those together, you can charge big money because you've got a direct comparison against the dollar amount that you're going to be saving that person by automating tasks. So no code operators, if you've got proof of work and you know how to tie tools together and use Zapier, you can get hired 100%. We're seeing it. People have come through the Makerpad community and been hired by startups. So that's awesome. Visual developers and robot builders, I like to call them. These are people who can build or automate workflows using, like we said, like Zapier, Integromat, Tray, Brighter, UiPath, things like that, are being hired on proof of work, not by CV. You don't need to be called a senior developer to get a job within a startup. If you can demonstrate that you can save people time and money, you're going to get a job. Learn these tools. Traditional educators are adapting and bringing no coders in to teach. So a good example would be Ben, Matt, and Lacey from the Visual FM. They did a Q&A at Stanford. Amazing. We've talked to a few universities, and I know countless other people who are working on curriculums to put into traditional, what we call traditional education establishments. And they are adapting, maybe slowly, but we will get there. This is good news for all of us. Online teachers are leveraging no-code tools and automation to teach and reach people at scale. There are some popular online courses and educators that through no-code platforms like Airtable, are able to keep all their operations running effectively. They're saving and doing the work of 10 people with just one person, and it's taking them maybe like an hour a week, whereas before it would take them like 50 hours a week to manually enroll people. This is going to have a giant knock-on effect to anyone who wants to teach online. Investors are actively investing in no-code tools as a category. So before it would be, okay, most of our investments are in tech, and occasionally we'll invest in a platform which happens to be like a no-code tool. Now no-code tools are a category in themselves, and people are actively investing in them. Quickly, some enterprise investments of note. Actually, not all enterprise, but there have been some big investments. Recently, we know Webflow, Uncork, Brighter, Tray, UiPath, Airtable, and Bubble have raised solid amounts of cash to bring no-code and low-code platforms to the masses. It's being proven, and there's lots of in-depth studies about how this market is going. So believe me, the money is in on no-code. And also worth noting that although those investments seem big, investments at the enterprise level have brought attention to the space and are filtering down. So you have premium tools, and they help the whole ecosystem. And companies like Earnest Capital and us are actively funding no-code startups and bootstrap businesses. So if you're building apps, like Tara gave an example before this talk, if you're building an app yourself, don't feel like you're never going to get funded, because you're a prime target for bootstrapped, boring businesses that are going to be funded through companies like Earnest Capital. First no-code rolling fund has launched to power the ecosystem. This was done by Ben, the founder of Makerpad, to fund the new tools coming into the ecosystem. And here are some of the opportunities for you if you are trying to figure out like where you fit in. So maybe you're watching this conference thinking, this all sounds great. Am I going to build an app? Like I really sell solutions in another job. Like my skill set isn't really as a maker. Like, can I still fit into the space? There's definitely opportunities for everybody. First one is you build and launch projects and become a founder. Second one is you can actually just become a consultant. So you could figure out where these tools fit. You can understand software platforms, like maybe you're coming from a traditional world of selling software into companies. Now you can sell these no-code solutions, and you can probably bet that less companies have heard of the benefits. So it's probably a nice edge to have. Learn, do, teach. This is leveraging the power of the internet to learn some of these platforms. You don't have to learn all of them. There are things like Notion Pros, where you can just learn Notion, teach Notion, and make a very good living producing content and teaching people how to use Notion. Take that model, replicate it for your favorite tool, reach out to the company directly. I know there's multiple no-code tools or low-code tools hiring evangelists who are likely to come from the Makerpad or no-code community in general to actually work full-time and creating new jobs to promote their products. If you're an investor, invest in makers. These are people who create and launch multiple projects every single year. They're very capable at building software on their own without any investment, just through their skills alone and getting out into the wild. Sometimes these live on Product Hunt, but not necessarily. Invest in makers if that is what you do. Building communities. We need more communities. I know Makerpad is the one I work for, but there are more communities needed globally. In whatever country you're coming from, start a no-code meetup, gather people who share an interest. This is great for the whole ecosystem. Let's bring people together. I know it's hard when you're online, but form groups, form communities, create products, share knowledge, and just all build together. It all helps. Adopt and promote low-code, no-code solution into your startup, business, or enterprise. So this is for people who are currently full-time employed. They've heard of no-code. Maybe they've watched a tutorial. They've seen people talk about it on a conference like this. See if you can bring in some of these tools and solutions to your workplace. Maybe it's like an automation flow where you think, okay, this person sat over there just copying and pasting things into the same system all day long. I heard of this platform that might be able to automate this. Go ahead and see if you can push that into whoever's in charge of making the technology decisions. You can save time and money. If you want to actually be in control of that, if that's what you want to do, go for it. I'm sure it's going to be well received. And finally, a little bit on what's coming next. So at Makerpad, we get exposure to a lot of early stage projects, a lot of wind of what some of our existing partners are trying to do. So here's a little bit of a touch on that, and also for makers. Platforms are becoming more robust and sophisticated. This means they're going to be more reliable with more people using it. They're going to demand higher levels of uptime. If you are running a big business and you're leaning on these platforms, they've got to be robust. You're going to have to lean on more traditional engineering methods to maintain this level of uptime, because if no code is to succeed, or low code, when you cost a business money is when it's going to fall down, and when they're going to go to switch back into hiring traditional developers. So they're going to become more robust and more sophisticated for sure. Methodologies from traditional software engineering will make the jump, will jump the gap. So by this, I mean, it's common within no code to just like jump into a project and build and then try and figure it out. Just because it's quick to build doesn't mean you should build it quickly. So there's going to be things like planning, like design, like version control, like testing that are going to have to find their place in no code if this is going to succeed at scale. It's great for MVPs and stuff, but once you get up to building like real businesses, we're seeing it now in Makerpad. You have to spend actually time thinking about these methodologies. So I think if we can encourage good best practices in an early stage of building products without code, it's going to be all for the better. We're going to see some explosive growth over the next 3 years. Gartner forecasts that there's going to be a big boom in development by 2024. It's going to be 65% of all app development is going to be low code. And Forrester says the low code market will top 21 billion in spending by 2022. It's a big opportunity for anyone wanting to get involved. Okay, sounds good. Now what? Head to makerpad.co if you are interested in learning how to code or wanting to build a project or connect with others doing the same. If you want to learn automation or just check out any tools or just attend some events, head to makerpad.co. We have a premium membership, 2,000 members, 100 tutorials, weekly events, and verified tool partners, challenges. Had 600 people build projects or enter the last challenge, which we did was the Makerpad T30 challenge last month. Amazing getting people building. And also on the 12th of October, we launch our first 6-week program, the Community Creators Toolkit, where we're bringing together experts from the world of community building. We're actually going to take people through and actually build their communities and apply some of the no-code tricks of the trade and software building techniques to actually get those built and scaled. So that's Makerpad. Hope you check us out. And finally, thank you very much for listening to me waffle on for 25 minutes. Hopefully that was useful. And like we said at the beginning of the talk, you can find me on Twitter, or that is my direct email address at the bottom there, Tom@Makerpad. Thanks very much.
All right, Tom, thank you so much. That was super thorough, amazing, and you almost didn't leave me any chance to ask you some more questions about how people contact you and what else there is to ask in the no-code world. So let's start from the important stuff then. Some people were saying, and I don't know if you heard about this or not, that you look and sound just like Jon Snow from Game of Thrones, except that you seem to know everything about no-code.
I don't know, maybe he's a closet no-code. He's definitely a better actor than me, so hopefully he doesn't.
One last serious question about this whole multitude of tools and opportunities is obviously a good thing. How do you actually navigate this whole, set of alternatives? Because it seems to be like for a lot of cases, there's more than one way and more than one tool and more than a few even tools that are a good fit for a particular idea, an application, or a combination of those. How do you guys at Makerpad suggest to navigate this ever-growing tool set of no-code instruments and frameworks that's obviously getting more and more awesome every day. And it's a both good thing and bad thing, right? Because at some point you get lost. So how do you guys manage?
Yeah, it's tricky. You can easily get tool paralysis, and this is common if you don't know the nuance of each tool. So what we're actually suggesting for people, don't kind of get blinded by all the tools. If you're planning like a new project, figure out the functionality you need, and then just check with the platforms that you have in mind. Maybe you're comparing like Glide to a Dalo, just to give a simple example. You want to check the core functionality before you start building, because it's easy to just like dive down the rabbit hole, start building, and then realize, okay, this doesn't have the module that I need. So just check that beforehand and just don't get hung up on the tool choice.
Perfect. Tom at Makerpad, thank you so much for being with us and sharing this one. Last one from the audience. A lot of people really love your slides. Is there any way that you can share it with them?
Absolutely. I'll put them in both talks after this.
You're the best. Tom, thank you. Always a pleasure talking to you, and thank you for being us this day.
Thanks for having me.